to invite Fliss to give a session on allonormativity. So welcome, Fliss. Thank you so much for joining us. So I'll let you introduce yourself and launch into the session.
Hi, can everyone see and hear me okay?
We certainly can.
Yeah, can we say yeah?
Oh, thank you. Firstly, I'm so sad that I am not there in person, but yes, train strikes, obviously. But I am still here and I've been watching since this morning, and I'm just beyond blessed to be amongst such incredible humans. So thank you for allowing me to be here today. My name is Fliss Goldsmith. My pronouns are she, her. I am an author, children's author, and educator and diversity and inclusion advocate. I identify as an asexual panromantic woman. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on myself, my story, before I go into talking to you about my passionate cause right now, which is allonormativity in secondary education and why we absolutely need to eradicate that. So I grew up as a teenager in the late 90s, and at that time obviously went through sex education, relationship education at school, and I found it to be a very strange landscape. Firstly, because it just seemed very strange. We were split up into boys and girls. I was taught to put a condom on a banana. I've never really found a use for that. You know, I just usually eat my bananas. But anyway, and we were taught, you know, about sexual relationships and don't get pregnant until you're ready, and off you jolly well go. That'll be marvelous. Thank you very much. And I just remember thinking, hang on a second, I'm not connecting to this. But, you know, the age of sort of 15, 16, you don't question that. You just think, well, maybe I just didn't get it first time round. But then obviously as time went on and I was moving towards going to university, the whole world around me, all my friends were getting into relationships, and sex was, you know, sex was everything. Have you had sex yet? Who do you want to have sex with? Sex, sex, sex. The films that we were watching, everybody's at it. The adverts that are on television, it's, you know, highly, highly sexualized. And the alarm bell was going off in my sort of brain thinking, I'm still not connecting to this. What is wrong with me? And then there was this huge sadness, because I thought, that's it. There is something wrong with me. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do about this? And it so terrified me that I thought, do you know, the only thing to do about this is to pretend. Just pretend. And I was really, really good at it. You know, looking at me now on the screen, I'm sure you'll agree, I had no problem talking the talk and fitting into society as a heterosexual woman. And talking that talk was fairly easy. But I tell you something, walking the walk was hard. And it has had a detrimental impact on my mental health for the last 20 years. And that was how I had to go through life, because even though I was furiously researching and trying to find out, you know, a word for what I was, all that was coming back to me was that I was ill. I was traumatized, even though I hadn't experienced any trauma at that time. And actually, I remember my doctor being thrilled when they found out that I had an underactive thyroid, because that was the answer. I have an underactive thyroid. Right, we'll fix that and you'll want to have sex with everybody. and I didn't. I fixed that. I took the medication. I got my thyroid to where it needed to be, and that didn't really change anything. So I have skipped forward now into my late 30s, where I am out as asexual, having gone through a lot of challenging times in my life, but I am very, very happy now. And that is something that I'm glad to say. So I kind of want to link that now into why I am so infuriated and so outraged that nearly 25 years, nearly a quarter of a century on from when I started to have sex education lessons at school, nothing has changed. Literally nothing has changed. So let's define allonormativity. Allonormativity was coined by an American professor, Elizabeth Brake, and she defines it as the assumption that all human beings are allosexual. So that is that all human beings will experience sexual attraction to other people. And there's also a metanormativity, which is the assumption that all humans are romantically attracted and will want to form a relationship with somebody else. And those two assumptions are hugely damaging. And they're both prevalent in the current sex education and relationship education guidelines here in the UK, certainly. So I am writing a paper at the moment called Why Schools Are Currently No Space to Be Ace. And it's something that I am going to be presenting to the Department for Education. Because at the end of 2022-23 academic year, they are going to be reviewing the current guidelines and they will be inviting input, and I shall certainly be putting my input in. So at the moment, it states under the Key Stage 2 guidelines for relationship and sexual health education that all pupils must learn about sexual and platonic relationships. So non-sexual relationships are called friendships or acquaintances. So there's this huge assumption that you cannot have any kind of relationship that is loving or intimate if it doesn't include sex. You can't get married and be asexual. You can't have a partner and be asexual. That's not a thing. You must want to have sex. You must be driven to have sex. And that's without going into the huge misogyny that is all women are, driven to reproduce. That's why we're here. All that goes with that. That's, as we're seeing in America at the moment, another enormous issue that needs tackling. It also states that sexual identity and gender identity must be explored at a timely point. I'm not sure what the timely point is, is that after maths on a Thursday? Is that when everybody turns 15? I don't know what that point actually is, but at a timely point. But that states that gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transsexual identities need to be covered. But asexual, intersex, queer in general, that is not something that is covered. It's not something that is necessary or essential. In fact, you can just ignore it. Like the rest of society is ignoring asexuals. That's fine. You carry on doing that. There's no separation of romantic and sexual attraction. They are one and the same. If you want a relationship, it is both sexual and it is both romantic, whoever you want that with. And we know as asexuals that is not the case. The materials that students use within sex education, but also throughout school life, in their other lessons, in their history lessons, in their English lessons, their maths lessons, they're all sexualized in some way. It talks about families and couples and it doesn't ever talk about people who are, you know, happy, healthy, functioning as either asexual in a relationship or asexual and out of a relationship. That is just something that doesn't appear in stimulus, in resources that go along with the current curriculum or syllabus. So I spoke with Lydia Strober at the PSHE Association, and they're responsible for creating the resources and documents for the relationship and sexual health education curriculum and syllabus. And she told me that everything that I've just said to you is true, that asexuality is not something that needs to be covered. It's left out, it's omitted, and explained to me about the 3-year trajectory that the guidelines are on and when I would be invited to speak to the Department for Education. So why is it that allonormativity needs to be addressed? Asexuality needs to be recognized, it needs to be understood, and it needs to be accepted. We need to dispel the myths that asexuality is akin to celibacy or abstinence. It's not. Celibacy is, you know, a choice to refrain from sexual engagement. Abstinence is the refraining from sexual activity, but both of those things mean that you have made a decision, a choice, based on your current sexual attraction in not having it. So we need to dispel that myth. There needs to be a reduction, there needs to be an eradication of the microaggressions that the asexual community are faced with on a daily basis. We're not broken, we're not prudish, we're not traumatized, we're not unwell, and we're not damaging the LGBT plus community. You know, I am so blessed to have found my home in the LGBT plus community, a community that is built on kindness and a community that reflects my self-coined mantra, which is whatever the question, let love guide the answer. And that is something that, you know, we should all be passionate about, whatever our identity. There needs to be an awareness of hate crimes that the asexual community face. Corrective rape goes on amongst asexual people. Corrective rape. Even saying those words makes me feel sick, but it happens. We are subject to verbal and online abuse. We're subject to disbelief, as Yasmin said. You know, being asexual, we're discredited. No, you're not. You just haven't found the right person. You need to have more sex. You need to get medicated. You must have mental health problems. All of this is, you know, it's bullying, but it's hate crime and it's microaggressions. We need to empower ACEs to connect and to celebrate their identity, that, you know, we can live full, happy lives in and out of relationships. And we need to improve the mental health within the ACE community, because for so long, so many of us, as I have personal experience of, live pretend lives, think there's something wrong with us, and it is, you know, hugely negatively impacting on our own mental health and as a community on our mental health. And we need to give representation to ACEs. We've heard so many times, you cannot be what you cannot see. So let's have ACE authors, let's have ACE advocates, let's have ACE filmmakers and ACEs in the media. Let's have ACE storylines in films, and let's use those as resources in schools. So finally, what do we need to do to make the changes? Teacher training is the first thing. You know, awareness is great, but awareness is passive. Education is active. So let's get active. Let's educate and train the teachers so that they can deliver this, so that they can embed this and embrace this in their teaching, so that they can acknowledge the intersectionality of ACEs, that there are ACE folk from different racial backgrounds, from different ability backgrounds, from different gender backgrounds, and to know that these should all be celebrated and represented throughout the curriculum. Let's have information out there for asexual students, for people who, you know, don't have a space to be ace. Let's give them that. Let's give them Avon online. Let's let them know that their LGBT community at school is for them if they're asexual, that they're welcome there, that they're part of that community. Let's have talks from ACEs with a lived experience, like Yasmin, like myself, in school, whether that's virtually, whether that's in person, whether we're supporting and informing the training. Let's get those people in to talk. And let's ensure that maternormativity is also tackled along with allonormativity, because they are connected, they are inseparable in what they stand for. I will be presenting my paper once it's completed to the Department of Education, and I keep rallying Nadeem Zahawi as the Secretary of State for Education to listen to what I have to say, to read my paper, and to take what I'm saying into the next consideration when the guidelines are reconsidered in 2023 for the next academic year, in September 2023, and to listen to what we as asexual folk have to say, and to go forward with a more inclusive, diverse, kind, safer and fairer curriculum that allows asexual people the knowledge that they are not broken, that there is nothing wrong with them, and that they have a place in this world along with everyone else to make the future kinder and more beautiful by being who they are. Thank you very much.
So very, very much. What it got me thinking when I was listening to you is like, there's a lot of cultures where you don't even have the choice to be married, where it's forced upon you. And I'm just wondering how far we need to go at a time where sexual orientation, gender identities and expression really no longer matter, and we just look at people as human all around the world without fear of discrimination or persecution. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.